It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 5 years since Lincoln brought back the Aviator nameplate after a decade-plus long hiatus, and for 2025, it's time for Lincoln to give the Aviator its first full refresh. I'm actually out here today in Palm Springs, California, with the fully revised 2025 Aviator, so let's go ahead and take a first look. So starting underneath the hood, this is where Lincoln probably made the least amount of changes to the 2025 Aviator. And we're gonna start here before we start talking about the exterior styling changes. But essentially all you can get is just one powertrain option for 2025. It's the company's 3-liter twin turbocharged EcoBoost V6. It's essentially a carryover engine from the 2024 model. It still makes 400 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque. Lincoln did say that they've revised the 10-speed automatic transmission. So it has new shift logic and whatnot to, again, improve the fuel efficiency, improve the acceleration. We don't have final fuel economy information just yet, but the 2024 model was rated at 17, 24, 20 mpg combined. I imagine this is going to, again, be even better for this new generation. Sadly, of course, the plug-in hybrid version of the Aviator, the Grand Touring, has been discontinued. I mean, I am a little sad to see that model be discontinued, but when I drove one, I wasn't too impressed with the refinement of the powertrain, so we don't know yet if Lincoln's going to bring that model back. But for now, all you can basically get is this 400 horsepower V6, which technically has a lot of power for the segment. But closing up the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling changes for the Aviator. Now, you're probably noticing this thing looks pretty different. In fact, right over here is the new Nautilus. You can see the Nautilus has been fully redesigned for 2024. I'm going to have a separate video on just this car showing you guys all the changes. But looking at the Aviator, you can see that they've kind of brought over some of the styling changes from the Nautilus here. You can see the headlights are slightly new. They have this new LED light signature that kind of goes into the Lincoln grille. This particular one that I'm showing you does have the jet appearance package. It's kind of like a sport package where it blacks out a lot of the chrome trim. I personally like that look. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys prefer the chrome. The Lincoln logo, as you can see, has also been updated. Some models, I believe, will have an illuminated Lincoln star. This model here that I'm showing you, you can't really see because of the super bright sunlight. But let me know in the comment section below if you guys like the styling changes. For me personally, I've always loved the way the Aviator looked when it came out. Remember, this is built on the same rear-wheel drive architecture that also underpins the Explorer, which, as you guys know, also got a pretty big refresh for 2025. Now, moving around the side profile of the vehicle, you can see with the jet appearance package, you get these big 22-inch wheels. Now, these are riding on a 275 by 40 our 22-inch tire. You can see it has kind of like a directional design to them. These wheels look carryover from the 2024 model, but they definitely still fill out the wheel wells nicely. I also like how Lincoln is kind of painting the wheel arch trim. It kind of has that full paint finish to give it a more premium upscale look to it. And then in terms of the size of this vehicle, the Aviator is Lincoln's kind of 3-row crossover, where it's not quite as big, obviously, as the Navigator, but at 199 inches long with a 114-inch long wheelbase, this is still, again, kind of like the same size as like a Kia Telluride, a Hyundai Palisade. Although, again, this is supposed to be a luxury version, so you can kind of compare it to like a BMW X5 or Mercedes-Benz GLE, although technically the Lincoln is roughly 5 inches longer than those vehicles. Now, Lincoln did also offer like a black roof color combination, although this model, as you can see, doesn't have that. You have these door handles, which look like traditional door handles, but there's actually a button on the back of the door handle that you push, and that's what actually opens up the door for you. It's an interesting design. And then coming over to the rear, you can see this is where the Aviator looks pretty much the same as the 2024 model. Remember, this is just a heavy refresh. You have that same full LED light bar that kind of goes and connects the two taillights together. It spells out Lincoln in the back. The one thing you probably noticed, there's no Aviator badges back here. That's because Lincoln puts them on the side. But you can see down here at the rear bumper, there's these really nice quad outlet exhaust tips, which look really nice. In fact, I'm surprised that Lincoln is still doing that. A lot of brands have been removing the exhaust tips entirely, so it's nice to see that Lincoln still kind of gives you that sportier look if you guys, prefer that. Now, in terms of the cargo capacity, you can see power tailgate is obviously included. And with the 3rd row seat up, Lincoln says you get around 18.5 cubic feet of space. That's a little bit less, which is what you're going to find from something like the new Lexus TX. But remember, the Lexus is roughly 5 inches bigger. You can obviously fold down these seats via power, but right now they're not working properly because this is a very early pre-production model. Lincoln says if you fold down all the seats, you get a maximum of 77.5 cubic feet of space, and that is a pretty decent amount. But remember, if you're looking for maximum cargo, the new Lexus TX offers roughly 20 more cubic feet than this car. But again, it's a much bigger vehicle, and that's precisely why it's going to have more space in terms of cargo. So on the outside of the new Aviator, the changes are pretty minimal, and you're going to probably notice the same thing when you step inside the interior as well. Now, as I get in and shut the door, You can see it has that Lincoln symphonic chime. It sounds different versus a lot of the other Ford vehicles to kind of give you that unique experience. But what you're looking at is essentially a similar dash layout. However, Lincoln has greatly improved the tech. All Aviators now come standard with the bigger 13.2-inch touchscreen. This is running the new Lincoln Digital Experience. So it's an Android automotive-based Google system, which replaces the old Sync 4. And then all Aviators will also have a 12.4-inch instrument cluster here. It looks a little different versus the pre-refresh model because there's no more binnacle that comes over. It's kind of like a floating screen, just like it is on the center. These are, again, the two biggest changes. And you're probably wondering, the new Nautilus has that 48-inch coast-to-coast or pillar-to-pillar screen. For some reason, Lincoln didn't decide to put it on the Aviator. I'm suspecting that's going to be for a next generation. Again, this is just a heavy refresh, but again, we do have the new software. This still includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. You can also look at all the different widgets and sources that you can access through here through the Google Play. It also has Google Maps kind of built in with the Google Voice commands built in as well. You can also go to the car display. You can change all your ambient lighting and seat settings. This particular one that I'm showing you is the black label. So you have the 30-way, I believe it's perfect position seats with the massage function. Your climate control function is also located here in the screen. Although the vents, as you can see, they're just a traditional manual adjustment. In the new Nautilus, again, they have that digital vent system where it allows you to kind of put it in different like oscillating modes if you'd like. The layout and the interface is pretty similar to what I showed you guys in the revised Explorer. Again, Lincoln just calls it something else with their digital experience, but it's definitely much quicker, much faster in terms of the processor, and you can also now play video games apparently. So you can hook up a Bluetooth controller and play video games onto this big screen while you're in park, of course. So you can't be doing that while you're driving. In terms of the steering wheel, you can see the steering wheel looks pretty similar, although as you can see here, there's this new bar to show the Lincoln Blue Cruise. There was a time where Lincoln was calling it Active Glide. I'm really glad they decided to call it Blue Cruise instead. You're gonna get that included as a trial period for 90 days on most models. After that, you can pay a monthly fee to include the Blue Cruise function, which is kind of a nice thing because you can kind of buy it and then you can cancel it after you're done using it. Let's say you're gonna go on a longer road trip. But looking at the rest of the center stack and whatnot, you can see I like the fact that Lincoln is using still a traditional dial for the volume controls. You have their piano key kind of push button transmission selector here. There's a lot of chrome and real wood trim, lots of nice materials. You can see there's this nice leather going across the center console here. Beautiful leather stitching along the upper dash over here with more of that wood. Up here it is a soft touch injection molded plastic. You can see along the door panels as well, you have soft touch plastic there with your seat controls. Remember, these seats adjust in 28 different ways or 30 different ways. They're heated and ventilated. You also have the Revel Ultima sound system in this car, which I believe it has like 28 or 30 speakers. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then down over here in the center console, you can see your wireless phone charging pad is here. I also like the fact that Lincoln didn't use kind of like that traditional piano black, which shows scratches and fingerprints and whatnot. This is definitely a little bit more durable. Your drive mode selector is located here. It's this big knob that you rotate along with your electronic parking brake. There's a nice padded center console here. And then open this up, you can see your two USB-C charging ports, power outlet. This console is a little bit shallow, but again, it provides some nice storage area that you can kind of hide things in. There's also another storage compartment back here, which provides even more storage. But overall, the cabin, as you can see, isn't terribly different in terms of the design, but I'll be looking forward to getting one of these back home where I can test out the Lincoln Digital Experience. Again, I'm a little sad that Lincoln doesn't offer the big 48-inch screen, but again, that's something that the new Nautilus has. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat and we can show you guys the second and the third row of the new Aviator. Now, taking a look at the second row, you can see this model that I'm showing you is the black label, which means you have the captain's chairs. This vehicle is technically a 6-seater because the third row only seats 2 across. But you can see here, getting back into the second row, this is where a lot of customers are looking for a vehicle like this because it essentially offers you the same kind of space that you get in the front seat with these captain's chairs. Lincoln says there's around 39 inches of legroom back here, which 39 is a pretty good amount, but you are going to find a little bit more in something like the new Lexus TX. You can see the seats do slide forward and back, and you're going to use that, or you're going to want that because the third row is a little bit tight for full-size adults. The one new addition this year is this kind of 5.8-inch screen that you get for the second row passengers. You can see you can control your audio, you can control your climate functions back here. There are heated seats back here as well, and you can also go into settings, but I don't believe Lincoln offers ventilated seats back here, so that's something that you can find in some of the competition. You can see there's rear seat vents. You have a traditional power outlet there, along with 2 more USB-C charging ports. The center console here, as you can see, is pretty similar to what you probably might find in the front seat area. There's a nice big deep storage compartment here. You can see provides some nice covered storage. You have cup holders here. You also have these little buttons here to open and close the power retractable shade, which is definitely a nice touch. I love the panoramic roof. It also kind of comes into the second row as well and allows you to kind of vent air over the two front seats. In terms of material quality, you can see it's the same soft touch injection molded plastic from the front seats. You also have these manual rear window shades along with the metal speakers that kind of come into the second row again to kind of create that nice audio experience. But let me go ahead and hop into the back seat area, which I have the child lock on now for some reason. But to get back here, let me see if I can. Wow, okay, that's never happened before. So thanks to Cole from behind the camera at TFL, he managed to free me from the backseat area. But getting back into the third row, you can see Lincoln says there's around 29 inches of legroom back here. Now, 29 is definitely not a lot. You're gonna find about 3 to 4 more inches of legroom in something like the new Lexus TX. And you can see here, the seat could be wide enough to fit 3 people across, but as you can see, Lincoln only allows for 2. For somebody my height, you can see this is with the seat not all the way back. My knees aren't touching up against this, but the floor isn't quite as low as I'd like it to be, so my knees are a little bit higher in the air than I'd like. But in terms of headroom space, I'm 5'7". I can see that there's still plenty of space for me to kind of get comfortable. I can kind of sit back. It's not a bad place to spend time. You can see there's some rear seat air vents back here. There's cup holders. You have 2 USB-C charging ports, along with this kind of big window back here that gives you a pretty decent view, which I think is important because some of these 3-row luxury SUVs, the back window area especially isn't really all that big, and it can give people, car sick if you can't actually see out of the vehicle properly. So if you want to use this as a family vehicle, the Aviator will certainly accommodate adults, but you're probably going to want to put shorter to average size adults back here. Now, last year in 2023, Lincoln managed to sell a little over 15,000 Aviators here in the US, which means this car isn't obviously their best-selling vehicle, but sales continues to grow for this model, and you can see why, because the Aviator is a nicely sized vehicle for a lot of American families. Again, this is essentially the luxury version of the Ford Explorer, but Lincoln has done a good job with differentiating this model from the Explorer. As you guys know, the engine, that 3-liter twin-turbo V6, is going to provide plenty of power. It's essentially the same motor that you also find in the Ford Explorer ST. The exterior design changes are pretty subtle, but I also think they're effective in just kind of tying this vehicle into the new styling language that they just introduced in the new Nautilus. And if you guys are looking to get your hands on the 2025 Aviator, these should be heading to Lincoln dealerships by this summer. You're gonna have to wait a couple more months, but you can go ahead and go to your Lincoln dealership right now and order this car. And in terms of pricing, it's obviously gonna be more expensive because of all the additional equipment. Lincoln says that the base price of this car is now $58,500 for the base version. All of them essentially are gonna come with the 13.2-inch screen that you guys saw in the center stack. The reserve trim, which is the middle trim, that's going to start at around $67,500. So that's probably the trim that most people are going to get. This black label model that I'm showing you is going to probably come in at around $87,000, as Lincoln says. Now that's before, of course, you add things like this jet appearance package, which is typically $3,000 to $4,000 extra. I'd probably say that this car can easily get to around $90,000+ at the top end, which I know is a lot of money. But remember, the old Grand Touring version, the hybrid model, could easily also get close to $100,000. That's kind of just where we're in with these luxury SUVs. And if you guys are comparing it to something like the BMW X5, the Mercedes-Benz GLE, or the Lexus TX, the Aviator is still priced nicely, although I am a little bit sad to see that the hybrid model is gone. Only time will tell it to see if Lincoln will bring that car back. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my brief first look overview on the 2025 Lincoln Aviator. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.